Hi everybody, welcome back. SMC here to do a little crime scene storytelling as well as put some makeup on for your enjoyment. Today I am talking about the educational pathway that would probably be the best for you if you want to get into forensics or crime scene, as well as just some tips from my real life experiences. And then, yeah, so we'll just leave it at that. If you have any questions about crime scene or forensic science, please feel free to write them below. If you have makeup questions or you just like makeup and forensics, then consider subscribing. I make a video every week. Usually I make them on Saturday, but I got called out yesterday, so then I made it this morning. And as always, crime scene stories do contain material that is sensitive, graphic, or disturbing in nature, and viewer discretion is highly advised. If you're having thoughts or feelings of hurting yourself or others, you need to talk about those feelings with someone. And that's actually speaking to someone. Don't just shoot them a text message or post on social media. This someone could be anyone who will listen. It could be a family member, a friend, someone in your neighborhood, a coworker, colleague, someone from your church if that's what you're into. You could call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline. That number is available, or someone's available to talk 24/7. That number is 1-800-273-TALK. Again, that's 1-800-273-8255. You can call your local police agency's non-emergency line, and you can usually find that phone number on their website, as well as you can call 911 and just tell them about these thoughts or feelings that you're having of hurting yourself or others, and they will get someone out there to talk to you about them. It is crucial that you talk this stuff out before you do something that you may regret or something that you cannot take back. Now that the disclaimer is out of the way, I will leave for a couple of seconds and then I'll come back to put this makeup look on my face. Please consider subscribing and the time it takes for me to get out of here and then come right back. And my experiment today, I'm about to take Pete to the jump park. So we're gonna see how this makeup look stands up to a bunch of sweating and exercise. I will be right back. Bye. Thank you all for hanging around, and a double thank you if you took the time to subscribe, or maybe even throw a comment down in the comments box. Question, whatever, that's much appreciated. I actually was called into work yesterday, so today is Sunday. Not my usual day. Usually I just spend Sundays editing the video that I recorded Saturday morning, but that didn't happen this weekend. I'm going about my usual routine. Now I have switched that primer water spray to doing it under my makeup instead of over my makeup. And it definitely seems to make a nice canvas of my face for application. I don't know how well it actually worked for longevity of the look. It does seem to me like it's probably best putting it on under the makeup to where it really helps control some of that oil coming through or sweat coming through, whatever messes it up. I'm gonna try to go pretty quick today and just do something simple because I am gonna have limited time to edit this video. And I was thinking I would just talk some about how the road you should take if you want to become a crime scene investigator. I've talked to schools before, you know, whether it's high school or even younger kids or college, and a lot of people do have interest in forensics, especially crime scene. That's one of the many questions that I get asked repeatedly is, what should I do to try to get into that profession? So of course you need to finish high school, and a lot of agencies, you'll see that their minimum requirement is a high school diploma. They may also incorporate, you know, X amount of actual experience. Oops, and there went my eyebrow pencil. High school diploma, It may be enough on that agency's minimum qualifications page. In reality, it's not going to be enough. The field is incredibly competitive now, and a lot of agencies, even a lot of crime scene units, are seeking out and earning accreditation from one of several accrediting bodies in the United States. And once that happens, those accreditation standards are much more rigorous. I've always heard that the accreditation standard is a 4-year hard science degree, forensic science, chemistry, biology, and so just not a 4-year degree and you're good. They want an actual 4-year Bachelor of Science in one of the sciences. So that's something to consider if you're starting out on this career path. Just finishing high school probably isn't going to be enough. My advice that I give is based on my experience and how wildly competitive this job field is. This was years ago. I can't even imagine how bad it is now, especially for someone just coming out of college with no actual experience. Much like any position, that experience is going to be the stumbling block. And I know everybody says it, well, how am I supposed to get the experience if you don't give me the job? And I think that's just part of life, that maybe you're going to end up having to move across the country to try to accept an actual position doing forensic science, whether it's in a lab or in the field. Maybe you're going to have to accept a position doing something like evidence custodian, where possibly you're going to get some on-the-job training because you're a backup to the crime scene unit. That's how it is in my current job. I'm the only crime scene investigator, and as part of my job description, I fill in as the evidence custodian when that person is sick or goes on vacation. So I've been trained to do the basics of that. I have also done the same thing at a previous agency, and that agency was roughly 3 times the size of the place where I am now. And I was the only crime scene investigator, and there was one evidence custodian. And if she went out of town or whatever, I filled in for her when she was gone. So it's not that uncommon that may be what you end up doing. Even if you're the evidence custodian, you may be asked to help fill in for the crime scene investigator when they're gone. And that it's valuable training and valuable experience. Even if you have a slow agency, if you can get in there, you're also going to learn a lot about evidence packaging and how the evidence room works. And you can parlay that in a job interview as a crime scene investigator, because you're going to become an expert on evidence handling, packaging, storing, what the lab in your area can do. So don't turn your nose up at an evidence custodial position just because you don't want to be some warehouse clerk for the next couple of years, because honestly, that might be the only thing you can get into, and that's your foot in the door into the field. I know in other videos I've mentioned that even with a master's degree, I was looking for 7 years before I ever got my big break. The education alone is not going to necessarily get you in. I have done hundreds of interviews. I've spent thousands of dollars. When I go into a job interview now, I'm not even nervous. And I'm not talking shit. I'm not boosting my ego. I've done it so frequently that it's like, I already know I'm going to nail the interview because I'm so practiced at it. Yeah, baby?
I'm trying to glue my pictures, but the glue, but I need help.
Okay, I'll come help you. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. And I forgot where I left off, but so don't think of it as a bad thing to become just the evidence custodian. That can be your foot in the door. That can make you an expert on evidence packaging and handling. And those are things that you can discuss in your interview, which can set you apart from the other candidates. Also, the fact that you already have that knowledge makes you more valuable because you can help out in the evidence room if your job position allows that. With that being said, the 4-year degree is what you're going to want to seek. The popularity of forensic science in this country, just because of how much it's on TV and it's pretty lucrative to these universities, many of them have started offering a forensic science degree. You need to be very selective in the one that you choose because a lot of those are just criminal justice degrees with maybe 1 or 2 science classes thrown in, like Bio 1 and Chem 1, and they're calling it a forensic science degree. But really, it's a bachelor's, a BA in criminal justice. That would make you an excellent officer. If you want to go that route, by all means, get the 4-year CJ degree or even the 4-year forensics degree that's more criminal justice and not so much hard science, and then go to an academy. That should get you more money, and it'll throw open the door to any of those agencies that require their officers having a 4-year degree. If you're thinking that's going to be enough to get you into a forensic science lab or into a crime scene position, that's not necessarily going to do it. And that's because there are degrees out there that have so much hard science that your knowledge base is going to be impressive to the point where you are competitive. That, for example, I have been asked, this was a lab position, and I was asked to explain how a mass spectrometer works. And not like put the sample in and press the button and then the results come out. Like, they wanted the actual theory behind how the instrumentation breaks apart the molecules and identifies the different parts to be able to say conclusively what a substance is. Had I not had a very rigorous science background during undergrad, I would have been like a deer in the headlights. I would not have known how to answer that question. When you become an accomplished interviewee, you can, your charisma and your personality can get you pretty far, and you can even BS your way through some questions because your personality wins out. You've developed a rapport with the interviewers, and they like you, and so they're willing to accept a BS answer more readily because of your personality. You can't bullshit your way through that question. If you don't know how it works and you're talking to multiple analysts who work with this type of instrument on the daily, they're going to see right through it, and it doesn't matter how charismatic you are or how much they like you, they're going to know you're lying, and you're going to miss out. You need to look for a 4-year forensics program that has a lot of science. My degree path in undergrad had so much chemistry, I got a chemistry minor just because. I didn't have to take any extra classes to get it. There were just so many chemistry courses in that undergrad degree that the chemistry minor was included. So be selective in the degree program that you pick. Try to get as much science in there as you can. If your program doesn't automatically build it in, then when you get the opportunities to take electives, take some of those science classes. Because even though you don't have to have organic chemistry for your degree, it's going to help you if you actually know this material and are able to understand it. And maybe I'm not going to use organic chemistry every day or at every crime scene, but knowing how those things work, it's going to help you in thinking about how reagents work, how body fluid components work, and why an alternate light source makes semen fluoresce and things like that. So it's going to be beneficial just to have more knowledge, depth and breadth than just only doing the bare minimum to get the degree. Because the degree these days, there's so many people getting bachelor's degrees that hardly sets you apart from, it's like what the high school diploma was, I don't know, 50 years ago. Like everybody had one, so it was no big deal. Well, now almost everybody's getting a bachelor's degree, so it's really no big deal. And it's even getting that way with master's degrees, and it's probably not going to be too long before everybody's getting a PhD, and then having all these doctors running around isn't really anything all that special because everybody's done it. A lot of people continue with their education because they can't find a job. I mean, God knows I did, and that's how I ended up with a master's. And then I've just explored my PhD just because I want to have one, and I also know that would open up more opportunities for teaching if I ever get tired of being on call all the time, or spending my 3 o'clock in the mornings on Sunday mornings with some dead body somewhere. When that gets old, I could just become a professor. Or maybe I should say if that gets old, because I still just eat that shit up. But you know what I mean. After college, that's kind of when the next hurdle arrives. I knew people from undergrad who were rooted where they were. They did not want to move. They were also rooted in what they wanted to do. They had really a passion for one discipline, and they didn't want to move from where they were. They had friends. They just had a life that they really enjoyed. That proved to be, for the one person I'm thinking of, not detrimental. He eventually did get a job, but he did have to move for it. You need to maintain that flexibility because this field is so competitive. If the job offer you get is all the way across the country, you need to be willing to take that risk and make that move and go work that job, because you really need to get that experience under your belt to make you more marketable. And then let's say you live in North Carolina, and that's where you went to school, and your family's there, all your friends are there, that's all you've ever known, but you apply and you get offered a job in Seattle. Go take that Seattle job, work there for a few years, and then if you haven't developed a love for that city and friends and a life, that's when you could start applying for North Carolina-based agencies or the North Carolina Bureau of Investigation, whatever. You want to make that move back home. Once you have those years of experience in some city, even if it's all the way across the country on the West Coast, you're more likely to get the job back home. And then when you're speaking to them and you're interviewing and they're like, well, why do you want to leave your job? It sounds wonderful, working for the Seattle Police Department. You could say, my heart is here, my family's here, I really miss home, I want to come back and make a difference in my community, I really want to come back home. And the individuals who are interviewing you are going to appreciate the fact that you're wanting to make a homecoming, which also means there's probably going to be some longevity there. You're not just going to show up, get the job, work 6 months, and then hop over to another job. That they don't want to hire somebody to just turn around and have to hire and train and background check a new person because you're flaky and flighty. So it's beneficial to keep that flexibility. Now, I understand life happens and there may be things that are kind of tethering you to a location, but there's nothing I can imagine that is just insurmountable when it comes to the career. Have a kid, you can move your kid, especially a little tiny baby. I moved Sweet Pea, I don't even think she was a year old yet when I moved from the East Coast out to, the Midwest, western side of the country. That's just what people do for jobs, because a huge component of your living and actual life is going to be what you're doing every day for money. We all have to deal with it. We all have to pay our bills. And if you have to move across the country, that's what you got to do. So keep that flexibility open. Get the degree that has a lot of science in it, and you should be pretty good to go. I applied even for overseas positions. That's how flexible I was. That it was like I was willing to go out of the country. I applied all over the US, and then I finally got my break. You're going to have to be ready to hear no a lot. This field is incredibly competitive, and I remember going to take a test where it was myself and like 96 other people for one position. You know, that's roughly, I had a 1% chance of actually getting the job. So you can't be discouraged and just give up because, well, I applied and interviewed at 3 places and they all said no. I mean, if that's the case, then don't even get the forensics degree. Get something that's going to kind of more guarantee you a job right out of graduation, because you're going to hear no a hell of a lot more times than you hear yes in this field. You know, once you're in that, you get that foot in the door, whether it's in a lab or in the field, then you're really golden. You have to do good work. You have to not get arrested, don't get in trouble in your personal life, because now what you've actually made it, like legit, you've made it. And that's a lot more than a lot of other people even get to say that they did. Don't screw it up on something stupid. You know, don't get in trouble at work, because that will follow you around. And don't, by any means, don't get in trouble in your personal life. Because then you've put in all this work, you've spent this money, you've put in all this time for this degree, and now it's absolutely worthless because, you know, you were driving drunk and got arrested or whatever the problem is. You have to think about those things. That's really the best advice I can even give when it comes to the path to get here. It's tough because for me, I'm so passionate about it, and then some people just see it as like, ew, I'd never want to do crime scene, and that's gross, I don't want to see a dead body. You know, but it kind of goes with the territory. Like, we just hired someone as an evidence custodian, and part of the job description said to assist me when I need your help, because as like I said earlier, part of my job description says that I'm to fill in for the evidence custodian in their absence. And this wasn't even like, hey, you need to go do crime scenes all alone. This was like, you need to just help me. And I really hope this individual has decided that, yeah, I will be willing to help, but they were like, I don't want to see dead bodies. I don't want to work with a dead body. And it's like, sometimes, no matter what your job is, what if that happens? I know I was at an autopsy once at my last agency. You know, the detectives are there, and this girl from the district attorney's office shows up, and she's like an associate DA or whatever they are. Maybe she was new. I think she was there with a seasoned, maybe not. I think she was just by herself and the detective. But that was her assignment, was to actually come and witness this autopsy for this case. And she was going to go run like a 5K afterwards. This, the decedent was, this is the only time I've ever actually seen a decedent who had done like a bunch of organ and tissue donation. And this decedent, they had harvested her bones and like the long bones in the leg and the bones of the feet. And it was interesting because, of course, it was like nothing I had ever seen before, but it was also pretty shocking the way that they go in and harvest and the way that the body looks afterwards. Well, this DA, of course, she had never seen anything like this before. It's not like that's her everyday workspace. And they're, doing their examination, and I'm doing my thing, and the detective's doing his thing, and, we look over, and she's just kind of green and gray, and she's like, I gotta go. And she just rushes out and doesn't even come back. Because that was really disturbing to her. And that, in the morgue setting, it's sterile. It's very much like a doctor's office or operating suite in appearance. It's not like it's, creepy with a bunch of cobwebs everywhere, or I don't know, but to see a body in that state, that's not what this attorney, I'm sure that's not what she signed up for originally, but that was part of the deal. Her boss had said, you need to go and do this, because sometimes the attorneys would be there, especially if it was a higher profile case, just like sometimes the attorneys show up at your crime scene. It was just, we kind of laughed, me and the detective, because we weren't rushing out of there and we weren't sick over it. And I'm not saying that I never have, but been ill or needed to take a break during an autopsy, but because they are pretty shocking. But it's just, you need to remain flexible once you're in the field, because no matter how tough it is or gross or shocking, it's going to end at some point. But you also don't want it to be that what ends is your career because you couldn't handle doing whatever it was that was asked of you. And yeah, I have, I could tell my story. It is a little bit embarrassing, but that was a long time ago. And I attributed my issues to kind of the stress I had put on myself because of the dude I was with and the argument we had had the night before. But I fainted once at an autopsy for an infant. And of course, I was incredibly embarrassed by that. I was embarrassed that the doctor saw. I was embarrassed that they called an ambulance, and so firefighters were there, EMS was there. I don't know what caused it. The only thing I'm really thankful about is that I knew, something's going south with me real quick, and I need to sit down or I'm gonna fall down because I feel like I'm gonna puke or faint or both. And I grabbed a hold of the detective. He was sitting in the only chair available. I grabbed his shoulder, and I'm sure it was like a vice grip on his shoulder, and I said, I need to sit down over my mask. And I think he could see the desperation in my eyes that I wasn't kidding around, and he yielded the stool to me and I sat down. So I'm thankful I didn't fall on the floor because, a morgue is like a surgical suite, but it seems not so clean. You can tell that it's not like the most sterile place in the world, and that's just the way they are. And so I absolutely would not have wanted to fall on the morgue floor ever. So I sat down and was, in and out of it. And I remember the detectives, 2 of them who were there, were way down in my face, and they were like, do you know where you are? And I'm answering, yeah, I know where I am. I'm at the DC medical examiner's office. Do you know where you are? Hey, can you hear us? Yes, and yes, I'm at the DCME's office. And they kept asking over and over, and I'm thinking, what the hell's wrong with these guys? Asked and answered. Then when I really snapped out of it, they said I was just sitting there, unresponsive. So in my head, I was answering them, but in reality, it was just like, I'm just sitting there with my eyes rolling around in my head, and I'm not actually answering their questions, I'm just staring at them. Needless to say, they sent me down to the lobby while they observed the rest of the autopsy, and that was that. I called the boyfriend I had been arguing with the night before, and I was like, well, there you go. You got your way. I'm actually just a human because this is what happened. You know, I'm horribly embarrassed. And he's, oh, you don't need to be embarrassed. You know, I'm so happy that you're human. Blah, blah, blah. And I know that it probably sounds bad that I'm happy that this happened, but well, whatever. When I did finally speak to the doctor again at the end of the autopsy, they were like, oh, don't worry about it. It happens to the best of them. I don't know how many times we've had like the most muscly detectives in here, and they're like, I can handle anything. And we make the first cut, and then boom, they're just down on the floor. Thankfully, it never happened again. You know, I've been able to bounce back from it and been a witness to many, many more autopsies since then, and never fallen on a morgue floor yet. So, there's that. You need to have that flexibility for whatever job position you end up in, because you might get tasked with going and witnessing an autopsy, or you may get tasked with, hey, you need to help out the crime scene unit. But I'm only the evidence custodian. Well, not today, you're not, because we, you know, need all hands on deck because it's a major, you know, massive disaster has happened. That flexibility will get you far. Some patience in the position that you're in will also get you far towards getting the position that you really want, if you're not in it already. Well, I guess that's going to be all for my story time today, and I'm going to try to race through the rest of this look. As usual, if you are interested in crime scene stories, or if you want to learn makeup and you want to learn it with me, then you feel free to subscribe and leave a message down below. If you have any questions or comments about the story today, about forensic science, about crime scene investigation, or maybe some makeup technique that you've been trying to learn off the interwebs and you can't figure it out, describe it to me, link it to me, whatever. Pose the question and I will try to find it, and I will try to learn it and then try to teach it to you guys in a way that makes sense, because maybe the way that you're finding it online isn't the most straightforward way for the masses. Well, that's roughly the final look. I'm going to put a little bit of eyeshadow just to kind of define things, give the illusion of some eyeliner. Like I said before, if you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Hit like if you enjoyed it. Do some interacting with me, and I will absolutely do some interacting with you. And please consider subscribing. If I get, I think, another 16 subscribers, then I can customize my name here on YouTube, and I would love to be able to customize it to myself. I think you had to have 32. Maybe you just have to have over 30. So that would mean I need another 14. So hook a girl up, because she wants to have a personalized name. I've been practicing this all week. And each time I do it, I expect it to look one way, and then it doesn't look that way, and I'm unhappy. You would think I would have just learned my lesson by now and not even bothered with it. But I do want to have a little bit of shadowing under the eye, so I guess I need to do it a tiny bit. And I'll just keep practicing, and maybe next week's video I will have refined it. Today's experiment is going to be the jump park. I am taking Sweet Pea there, and then we will see how this makeup holds up, because it's a bunch of trampolines and a huge ball pit, and last weekend we went and that was quite the workout. So we'll see how it holds up to the jump park workout this week. There you go. So hopefully you enjoyed the video, and I will see you back here next weekend. And well, actually I will see you back here shortly to see how the makeup stood up to the jump park, and then after that will be my final sign off. So there's the look. Hopefully it stands up to some sweating and activity. Hi again, everybody. We're finally back. We actually went to the jump park for 2 hours, hung out there for a little bit afterwards, and then went to Walmart, which was near the jump park. So I put a mask on for the Walmart trip, but you can see my makeup held up fairly well. I noticed in the car the makeup on my nose was kind of gone, which isn't that surprising because I had to put my mask on. And of course around here, yes. But other than that, it looks pretty good. My contouring, that's the word. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with the results, and Sweet Pea really wants my phone until her friend gets here. So I will talk to you guys again next week, and that'll be that. Have a great week. Bye.
Wait. Goodbye, everyone. Make sure to press subscribe and press that circle, and we want 100 billion likes and press the notification bell. See you soon.
Bye.
And goodbye. Goodbye.